Alright, so now I think I started. So now this is a study session. I'm gonna call it Study with Me. This is gonna be about Python. So let's talk about it. Alright, cool. So I bought a book called Python Journeyman, and I just wanna read it and upload videos about what I'm reading. I think it's boring. that's what it is. But boring is money, and so we like money, so we gonna do the boring thing. Feel me? Alright, bet. All right, so learn about a concept in Python called function factories. A function which encloses another function that could then return a function to later be invoked. That's what you call a function factory. So let's read a little bit more about what a function factory is. We can see that local functions can safely use objects from their enclosing scope, but how is this really useful? A very common use for closures is in function factories. This is a function factory. These factories are functions that return other functions, where the return functions are specialized in some way based on arguments to the factory. In other words, the factory function takes some arguments. It then creates a local function which takes its own arguments, and but also uses the arguments passed to the factory. So let's code that out real quick. Factory function takes some arguments. So it could take arguments. So let's say, actually, no, arg2. I'm going to call that arg2. Then it says it creates a local function which takes its own arguments, which we call arg2. And then creates a local function which takes its own arguments, but also uses the arguments passed to the factory. So arg could be passed right here. So we call arg, and then we could run that with arg2. Since this is Python, we have the f strings. Like, yeah, there we go. F strings. Let's see if we can run this. What is going to happen? It does nothing because we didn't pass anything to it. Arg. What are we going to say? Hello. Right? And then this is going to be the cool part, right? Because LF is going to just return the function, local func. That's pretty much it. That's all it's going to return. Well, that's what it should return. Oh, no. LF. Let's see that. LF. Come on, dogs. Well, actually, no. Python has type. So let's look at the type. Oh, it's not saying nothing, dogs. It's crazy. Let's see if we can just run it just like this. It runs nothing. Oh, wow. I think this thing lied to me, I guess. Maybe. This book lied to me. Because I see that it's saying that it's saying nothing. But if I pass it nothing, what will it do? It'll blow up. Okay. Cool. So it does take the argument, but it does nothing. Perhaps we'll see if we can still pass something to it, right? Let's see. It worked. Okay. So it returns LF. No, enclosing returns the local function. It doesn't invoke it though. It just saves it to LF. And we could invoke the local function just by simply passing a string, and then it'll work. Boom. Interesting thing. All right, well, let's see What else Python got for us? The combination of runtime function definition and closure makes this possible. Okay, so it was counterfactory. If we call raise to, we can verify that it creates this closure. Okay, yeah. So this is called a closure. Local function is a closure. It creates like a new scope to hold the arg binding. The arg variable is binded to this local function so that the local function, when it is returned, it could be passed around to any other function. Like you could pass this to a class, right? You can pass this to another method. You can invoke it later on in the program, and it'll still have access to the arg even long after the arg has been, um, I guess, ran. So that's what this whole concept of a closure means.